Well, then thank you everyone for coming to the second Interactive meeting. This is our second quarantine meeting. I think you guys all know the drill, but just in case, we do this every third Wednesday of the month. It's always free. It's always open to everybody that wants to join. Usually they are in person at Hacker Lab in downtown Sacramento, but because of the pandemic, we're doing this virtual thing these days. Let's see here. I don't think we have anything else we need to discuss, do we? Any announcements or anything, Bill, that I can think that I'm not thinking of?
I don't think so. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see when we can get back to doing stuff in person. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll do that next month or
right. Next month, speaking of next month, Evan Dunham, who gave the great talk on accessibility for us a couple of months ago, he's going to be giving a talk on rad CSS techniques that he's going to demo for us. So that'll be
very cool.
Yeah, that'll be our June meeting. Corbin and I are talking about him doing a talk in July. Which one are you going to do, Corbin, do you think? The DevRel one?
Yeah, I kind of like that one, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do one about like developer relations, sort of communication processes at your company and how to communicate with your dev teams. That should be pretty interesting for people. And then, of course, if we have any other ideas, please send them our way. Or if you have any other ideas, send them to me or Bill.
Yeah, definitely.
And we can check them out for
future
meetings. I
want to do one on Firebase. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Put that together, but maybe this summer sometime.
Okay. Yeah, well, we got some time. We'll figure out a time to do Firebase. That would be awesome. Yeah. Who would like to give the first demo tonight?
Don't everybody shout at once.
Right?
I can go if no one wants to go first.
Yeah,
sure. Go for it, sir. Just share your screen and fire away.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
All right. Let me just move the Zoom tools. So I actually showed this website at a previous SAC Interactive.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, meetup. I'm assuming it was last year because it was in person. And let's see. And I'm pretty sure Corbin was there as well.
Yep.
And so my website is called SimpleDev. As you can see, I describe it as a searchable reference site featuring short, easy-to-read articles on the fundamental skills needed in front-end web development. And so maybe just to break that down, basically all the content on the site is written, at least so far, so no videos. All the individual articles are supposed to be short and easy to read. And in fact, I'll try and find one right now that we can look at. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just click on this one for now. And let's see. So here's like an example article on just the boilerplate code you would want in an HTML document. And so all the articles are kind of designed to follow the same format as well. So they all start, I can't say all, but most of them start with the summary at the top, which has the relevant syntax or command that you want right there in the summary. Then there's a details section, which breaks down the part in the summary and maybe gives other examples or might go over common problems you might run into or just additional information to help round out the concept. And again, most of the articles have at least one reference link, which will link back to official documentation. In this case, and in fact, for a lot of the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript stuff, I'm linking back to MDN. But for like the Bootstrap stuff or Sass or Git, I'll link to the official docs for those tools. And then something new for the HTML and CSS articles is that I think this will have it. if I go down, I started embedding these code or pens from CodePen towards the end of the article, so readers can not only see the syntax, but they can see the output, and then they can, open it up in a new window or a new tab if they want and mess around with it. Obviously, this is a pretty simple example, but I hope to do more advanced stuff, in the near future. And then one other new thing that I've added to the site recently is this instant search feature. And I didn't actually, do any development for this. This whole website is built on WordPress right now. And so this feature is coming from a WordPress plugin called Jetpack Search. And so I can type in like git commit and see all the relevant articles, and hopefully the most relevant one comes up at the top. And so now I can just click that and find or read that article. And again, it's following roughly the same format. And so here my the relevant commands at the very top. If I need a little bit more information, there's the details. And then there's also some navigation if you want to just move back and forth between articles. And you can go back to the main topic page and just see the list of topics or the list of articles for that topic. And let's see. So I will say I am trying to monetize the site, and I just added a like a membership feature to the site. And so if you visit it, you'll encounter something like, if I click on this, where you have to sign up or sign in. And but I will say the HTML and text editor articles are free for now, so you don't have to be signed in at all to read through these. And I'm also set it up so there's a 7-day free trial. So if you just want to try it out, that's an option too. I imagine most of the developers here are more advanced than what my site is covering, but if you happen to know any newer devs, then maybe this site could be a good resource for them. And I think that covers the gist of the site and the new stuff I added.
Javier, did you write all of the articles on the site?
Yeah, so far it's just been me writing all the articles.
Nice.
And there's over 200, close to 250, but as you can see, they're all, and like I said in the description, they're all pretty short. I am hoping, like, kind of I guess over the next few weeks or month maybe, to kind of refine what I already have, and I'm probably going to look at each individual article and maybe try and add a little bit more content to each one to help flesh them out. So they might get a little bit longer over the next few weeks, but yeah, so far it's just been me.
Cool. Oh, Bill, are you talking, Bill? Sorry, I put you on mute.
Sorry, that's awesome. How are you doing the code snippets? Is that a plugin?
Yeah, so I'll go back to where we were before. Yeah, so I'm using a plugin. I forget the exact name. I might be able to look it up. But the plugin itself is using, I think, the Prism JS library, I want to say. And so the plugin's called Code Syntax Block. And so, and then there's another plugin for the CodePen embeds. So yeah, that's how I'm getting this. So, and WordPress does have like a built-in code block just in their new block editor, but there's no syntax highlighting. So that's why it's nice to have that plugin.
Hey,
Nice.
Nolan,
Yes, sir.
Rob is trying to get in, but he can't find the link, and stupid Meetup is not letting me in again. Can you just either copy and paste the share link to invite people to this in the chat? So
Yeah, I can do that.
I can just
I'll
send
find that real quick.
You should be able to just click invite people down at the bottom of.
Yes, I can. Right. Chat. There is the invite link.
Okay, cool. I will send that.
Cool. Thanks, Javier. That was cool.
All right, cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love what you're doing with it.
Thanks.
Also, 200 plus articles. That's a ton of writing
Yeah,
in a
seriously.
pretty short period of time.
Thanks.
How long have you been writing code, Javier? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, for me, it's been kind of this off and on thing. So it's been, I took my first programming class in 2014 in college,
Okay.
but I didn't study computer science. It was just, I studied mechanical engineering and the class was just happened to be part of the curriculum. So that was my first exposure.
Right on.
But it's been kind of off and on since then.
Okay, cool. Hey, Rob.
Hello.
Hello. Who would like to go next?
I'll show mine next because it kind of dovetails with what Javier's doing.
Go for it, sir.
So I'm also working on education stuff and curriculum stuff, and I have a very simple JavaScript game that I was working on, and I'd actually, I don't know if there's any JavaScript experts here, but I'd actually like, what I was hoping to get from this is for you guys to look at the code and say, you know, you could refactor this, or you could make this code better, you could make that code better, so that I could actually make it better as I'm sort of working on putting together a lesson around how to make this very simple game. So if you want to download the code and look at it, I will put the link in the chat. And it's just a zip file. You can just download, unzip, and open up in your browser or your code editor or both. And then I'll just show you quickly what it is. Let me share my screen here. So it's a game called Pig, which is just a very simple dice game. And basically the way the game is played is you roll a pair of dice and you're adding up your score of the pair of dice until you reach a certain score. And that's how you win the game. So it's two players. And then if you roll a 1, your turn is over. If you roll 2 ones, your score gets zeroed out. And you have to basically start over. Or you can also, while you're taking your turn, you can keep going or you can pass. In this version of the game, there's basically no strategic value in ever passing. But part of the challenge that I'm going to have students do is to actually modify the game so that, you know, if you roll a 1 while you're in your turn, then you lose the points you got that turn. So there is kind of like a question of whether you should, it's still just dumbass luck, but there is a question of whether you should, you know, whether you should press your luck or not and continuing to roll. But basically, you know, it starts up and you randomly pick a first player, and then the game right now is set to go to 30, so it doesn't go very high so that you're not testing this forever. But you roll the dice and look at that, I got a 1. So it waits a second, then it switches to the other player, and player 1 gets a 1, switches to the other player. Oh, look at that, we're getting lots of 1s.
Seems random number generation isn't quite so random.
Yeah, it's because Rob's here.
Ah. Oh, hey, no 1. See, you said my name and immediately score points.
Yeah, look at that. So I could roll again or I could pass. Oh, look, I got a 1, so it switches over to the other player. And it goes like this until, usually very quickly, until you get to 30. But of course, in this demo, I'm getting a 1 like every freaking time. Oh my God, what are the odds? There we go. Roll dice for player 2. Oh, Snake Eyes, so they got zeroed out. Actually, that's kind of cool. So you can see the score down here and that kind of stuff. So it keeps going like that. Let's take a look at the code really quickly, just so you kind of see what's what over here. Oh, I was moving this stuff all over into a separate script file, but I haven't actually done that yet. So just a really simple, very few styles. There are basically, there's basically 4 divs that kind of get zeroed out and emptied out as different things happen. Some basic variables for, for accessing those divs, those areas. And then this is the object that keeps track of all of the data for the game. And part of the purpose of this lesson is about teaching objects and working with objects and modifying objects. So as you take turns, this object is updated with the score. So, this is player 1 and player 2 and player 1 score and player 2 score. And then we're keeping track of the values of the rolls and the sum of the rolls. And in this index is just keeping track of which player we're on. So index 0 starts with player 1, and this would index 0 here would be player 1 score. So index switches between 0 and 1, which is used to address these 2 arrays inside this object here. But yeah, I'm not going to go through every line of code, but basically I'm, setting up the game and adding a click handler for the start game button. You can quit at any time, which basically just refreshes the page. Set up a turn, and then then the main action is in this throw dice function, where we're emptying out that action area and then rolling dice 1 and the first die and the second die, and totaling up, and then checking to see if 2 1s are rolled, or if either die is a 1, or if neither die is a 1, and then doing the appropriate thing with updating the score and these kinds of things. Checking to see if you passed or not, and switching the turn and these kinds of things.
One of the things that I'm wondering is that I see that you're doing assignment using a ternary.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it wouldn't be a bit easier for newcomers to read an if statement.
That's interesting. Yeah. Certainly could do it with an if statement. It seemed, and I had turned on, does anybody use the Prettify plugin in Visual Studio Code?
I'm not sure what that is.
It's a plugin for Visual Studio Code that formats your code and makes it look prettier, but I hate it, so I turned it off. But all this sort of weird formatting with the way this stuff goes down, to me, what's the advantage of the ternary operator is that it's all just, you can have it, so it's all just on one line.
Right.
And the fact that my Prettify thing actually.
Oh, Prettify. Oh, I'm sorry, I misheard you.
What did you think I said?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that Prettify thing broke it all out into these. I didn't like it being all in one line. So I've turned off Prettify because I just couldn't stand it.
Well, also in I think that ternary operators are, because I've taken a lot of introductory classes, and I think that they're much more commonplace in lower level languages. But in JavaScript's introductory classes, at least from what I've seen, they don't tend to explain the ternary operator early on for whatever reason. I'm not even saying it's inherently better or worse. It's just a difference in culture, I think.
Yeah, I should say the course this is for is actually for a third course in a series of 4 courses. So that's kind of important information. So they should be getting a lot of basics, but before this. in terms of if statements and else statements. And so,
Gotcha.
yeah, but this would probably be the first time that they see a ternary operator. So basically, we're checking to see if the index is true.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 0, it's on the first player. So if it's 0 and it's the first player, then it's false and it would set it to 1. If it's not 0, if it's 1, then it'll set it to 0. So it's basically just swapping this value here for the index
Right.
between 0 and 1.
Outside of that, I reviewed the code and it does look really good. So,
Oh, it does, you think?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was considering switching some of the functions to arrow functions, but I don't know if that's really necessary.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you. That helps. The one thing I was kind of concerned about is this throw dice function is kind of the guts of the program, but it is kind of a long function. I just didn't know if I should break that up into smaller bits, or I don't know. Maybe it makes sense the way it is in terms of it is doing basically one thing, throwing the dice.
If it's doing one thing, then that might just be what that function is going to be, and it's going to be a little bit of a lengthier function.
Yep.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to show. I don't know if there's any other thoughts or anything else that you guys want to.
Is Pig a game you came up with, or is that an actual dice game
No,
that
it's
exists and
actually-
I just never heard of it before?
So this is actually kind of funny. It's actually a real dice game. And originally I came across it way back in the day. Rob and I were teaching programming logic classes. And it was actually in a book that I was using for a programming logic class way back in, like, I don't know, 2010 or 2011, something like that. And it was like a sort of a way of, one of the exercises was to write pseudocode for this thing. And then at some point I was teaching PHP classes, so I wrote a version for it in PHP, and I used that in classes for a while. And then just this spring I was teaching JavaScript, and I was like, and the other teacher who had been teaching it was doing this game, and I could not figure out what the heck this game was supposed to do even. So I was like, wow, that pig game was kind of fun. I could port it over to JavaScript. And then, the funny thing is like, for years I've been writing the game this way with these rules. And then at the very end of this, I went online to find a picture of Pig Dice Game, and I realized that it's actually a real dice game. There's like a whole Pig Dice Game website out there, and there's lots of variations on the game. And that's where I realized that, like, rolling a 1 during your turn is supposed to actually, like, not just end your turn, but zero out your score for that turn. So it's like, oh, well, that makes much more sense, because the rules that I've been playing with just kind of don't make any sense whatsoever. Like, there's no reason to ever pass your turn. Like, you just play until you get a 1. But so it's, I don't know. It's just kind of funny. So yeah, it is actually a real dice game, and you can play it with lots of different ways. You can have more dice. You can have more people. You can do there's lots of variations on it. But it is always kind of just a sort of straight up dumbass luck game. So it's not a super interesting game.
I like little games like that. I think they're interesting. I always enjoyed it when my programming professors in college would have us build something close to a game, for the assignments, rather than build an app to balance your checkbook or the other kind of businessy apps. The game stuff always makes it a little more interesting for me.
Yeah,
anyway.
and what's fun about this is that there are lots of ways you could take the piece that I have and modify it. So, like, there's no reason why it has to be 2 dice. You could add more dice. There's no reason why it has to be dice. You could create your own cards. There's no reason why it has to be 1 to 6. You could actually have cards of different values, and you can make your own sort of Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Whackatoid battle game if you wanted to. You could turn it into any of those things really pretty easily. And I have had students do a little bit of that. But yeah, for this new course that I'm putting together for, I'm kind of expanding on it a little bit.
In my Java class, I have them build Hangman,
Okay,
Nice.
that's a good one.
which is shockingly complex once you get into it.
Oh yeah.
But hey, Bill, if you ever need, if you want to expand, I have images for both 8 and 20-sided dice if you ever want them.
Okay.
Raise your hand if you're surprised Rob has images of 8 and 20-sided dice.
Oh, why is no one's hand raised?
Right.
Because we've known Rob for more than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
The game master himself.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill.
All right, cool.
Any other questions or anything for Bill before we let Mr. Corbin wrap things up? Or Rob, did you have a demo you wanted to give?
No.
No?
I've been
Okay.
furiously converting classes to online. I don't have time to develop anything anymore.
I know the feeling. Okay. Corbin, I believe the floor is yours, sir.
All right. So I'm going to kind of cheat. Don't hate me. I'm going to be sharing two things that are on the same exact line. So I'm building a mobile app. So part of that is the website that I wrote, which I'm like really super excited about. And I think is like probably the prettiest, most functional website I've ever built, which is either a great compliment to myself or a real insult to myself. Can't figure out which. But it like has this nice little animating background that you can pause and play. And more than just pausing and playing, it even respects, prefers reduced motion. So if someone has like that setting set on their accessibility side, then that just like pauses everything on the site, which I think is really cool. It also, so it has like the little sign up form and it'll let you know it hooks up to like my ConvertKit. But it also has a dark mode to reflect the light versus dark. Because the app has that functionality, so I figured I'd include it in the site, which is super funny because I just like image flip this or color flip this image, which is fun. But also some of the fun stuff is like when you size it, if you watch the GitHub part of the screen, it might jump around, but let's hope it doesn't. Sure enough, it does. But it animates between like expanding out and not. It doesn't matter. But I don't know. I'm pretty happy with the website. It's very pretty, very functional. Doesn't do a whole lot, but it's nice. But it's promoting my mobile app that I'm building called GitShark. GitShark is a way to like, if you've ever used like Gitfork or GitKraken or SmartGit or any of those programs, it's exactly the same where you can like see all your changes and like commit them and all this other good stuff. It's exactly that, but for your phone.
Oh, wow.
And I'm building it using React Native, so I'm going to be porting it to iOS and Android and Windows and Mac OS and every platform that I can find. And like everything is animated, and it's all animated from scratch. So like this button is animated, this slide up and down sheet is animated. Even transitioning between the different colors, this is all animated, and I had to write all that code from scratch. Something that is surprisingly hard to do is drawing content under the navigation bar. Turns out that's pretty tricky to do. What else? Oh, so we have settings. So you can either stage files. Oh, that's another animation that we built, is like this whole interaction with like discarding changes and staging them and stuff. That's all animated. We have a settings screen where like your staged and unstaged files, it can either be like this, so that you get mostly unstaged, or if you have like a Samsung phone like I do, and you want to have it like 50-50 because your phone is really tall, this just like hard sets it as half and half, so you don't have to like swipe up and down or anything like that. We have repo history, so all the commits that were made. We have remote branches. Of course, the animation isn't going to play properly the first time, but we have remote branches, we have local branches, we can stage, commit. It's still work in progress, but I've only been working on it for about 3 months now, and it's already got like 10,000 lines of code. Well, it's got 9,000 lines of code in TypeScript plus some other goodies in other languages because I've had to write a lot of native code and stuff. But yeah, that's the start of my mobile app so far. I've been live streaming, programming on it. It's completely open source. Yeah.
Nice.
What's the use case for this app? Like what's the situation where you would be looking at your Git stuff on your phone like this?
I have no idea for anyone else. Like I've gotten a ton of attention. People are like, wow, this is great. I can't wait. And I really, really, really want to know what they're going to use it for, but I'll tell you what I'm going to use it for.
Okay.
I am going to buy like I think they're called the lapdog, and all it is a keyboard and a screen and like no processor. So it's like a laptop without a processor in it or operating system or anything. And my phone runs Samsung DeX. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I run a blog, and I'm going to write my blog posts on my phone, and then I'm going to use this app to stage the files, commit the files, and then basically run my whole repository, everything from there.
Okay.
So that's what I'm building it for. Is it
And
an
why wouldn't you do
overkill
that?
problem? Yes.
Why wouldn't you do that from a laptop?
It
Just
mostly
for
it's
fun,
like
or-
when I'm traveling,
Okay.
which I'm not doing anymore. But I had this problem last year. I traveled a lot, and I was like, man, my laptop is fine, but it's a 17-inch laptop. Like, I like
yeah.
that big of laptop, and that is such a pain in the butt to pull out of your bag, and like it's just a pain in the butt. And
Yeah.
now I have no use for this. I don't see any, even if I now even have an iPad, so I could just do this off the iPad, and there's tons of apps for the iPad. But at this point, it's kind of like, I just want to finish it and make it because it's
that's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, like I'm just having a fun time working on it and building. Like, this animation took me like 3 hours to do, to slide out and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
the rotation here. Like, I'm just having a good time working on it.
That's awesome.
That's nice, man. And yeah, even if there are other apps out there that are do the same thing, so what? Like, make the thing to make your thing and put it out there. People may like
I
your UI
totally-
better, or the experience better, or something.
Well, and what I think, so this is the only alternative that I can find on Android. There's a bunch of alternatives on iOS, but this is the only alternative on Android. And the app hasn't been updated since like 2017, and the UI I don't like it as much.
Ugh, that's terrible.
And more than that, if you go read the reviews, like, all of the top reviews are 1 star. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. So, and plus the fact that I'm writing it in React Native is like a benefit for me. So let me actually pull up my design file really quickly. I'm working with one of my friends who's like the best designer I know, hands down, on this project. And he's been designing all of the stuff for desktop and stuff like that. So like, these are all of our mobile mockups. And then we have, desktop doesn't have anything, but tablet. So like,
is this Figma? What are you in here?
Yep, Figma.
Okay.
Yep. So like, even on desktop, there's still it looks like he just redid a bunch of this stuff because it used to have a lot more screens. But like, I can still see usage for like using it on my own,
Yeah.
on my desktop and dog fooding it there. And the thing that I've always wondered is, like, we have Git Shark, we have all these Git GUIs. None of them are open source. Why are none of them open source? They're made for developers. So that was kind of my other motivation, is like, even if I don't end up with a ton of users on the mobile app, it's kind of just an excuse to get most of the groundwork done. And then once I have the groundwork done, writing everything else is going to be a lot easier, because all the components are the same. I just need to make them bigger. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, nice job, man. That looks great.
I've been pleasant. This is like the biggest side project I've worked on. I'm surprised, shocked really, that I've even made it to like 9,000 lines of code. Really doesn't feel like it.
It is amazing when these projects kind of balloon like that.
Yeah, it's gotten so big, and this is going to be a big "how dare you" moment. But I've even had to integrate Redux in it. Shame on me.
Nice. That looks very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
If you'd be interested in giving like an in-depth look at the code for a future meeting, I think the group would be interested in checking that out sometime too.
Yeah,
No
totally do
pressure.
that.
Just throwing that out there as an idea.
Yeah. I mean, I basically do that all the time on Twitch. So like, I've gotten plenty of practice now.
Cool. Right on. Yeah. Thanks, Corbin.
Yeah, anytime.
Any other questions for Corbin, or any other demos people have that they want to show off, or interesting tidbits from the week you want to share, or anything going on?
Trying to think of some.
I guess I don't have a demo to share, but there is one thing that you might be interested in. So today's Wednesday, it's almost done, but this week is Cold Fusion Developer Week from Adobe. And all that means really is they're doing 2 free webinars every day this week, showing some new development thing. They're not all Cold Fusion specific. For example, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. our time is a talk called SQL from What I Have Learned, SQL Select Star from What I Have Learned. It's just to talk about real world things that this guy Dave Ferguson has run into dealing with SQL servers and SQL query commands that accidentally broke the database, or things that he learned that are, A is faster than B and that sort of thing. So that's worth checking out, no matter kind of what language you are dealing with. That one's at 10 a.m. tomorrow. You can just Google Cold Fusion Developer Week and check out the schedule for when those happen and how to register, and it's free and everything. Anything else from anyone? All right, thanks very much, you guys, for presenting. Next month, Evan Dunham's going to do his CSS talk, show us some rad CSS techniques. I've worked with Evan on several really big projects. He is the man when it comes to CSS and front-end code like that. So that'll be awesome. Looking forward to having him here. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And thanks, everyone, for coming, and have a good night.